Is the Bronco Raptor the most turnkey ready overland vehicle out there? At least on paper, I think it might be. But in this video, we're going to take a closer look at it, and we're going to talk about its strengths and weaknesses. So Ford nailed it. They absolutely knocked it out of the park with the Bronco. It's been out for a few years now, and there was a lot of speculation beforehand. What were the specs going to be? What were the details? And when it came to market, I mean, it really felt like they took the gloves off. The Bronco from the factory came with, at least some of the higher end models, came with the ability to run a 35-inch tire right from the factory. You had locking front and rear differential, sway bar disconnect, removable top, very comfortable. They had a punchy motor. I mean, a lot of really good things on paper that looked really good. And then a couple of years later, as if that wasn't good enough, they decided to one-up that and release the Bronco Raptor. With the Bronco Raptor, just like with the regular Bronco, Ford literally just, again, knocked it out of the park. They gave us everything us overlanders, and not overlanders like myself apparently, they gave us everything we could possibly want and dream for. From the factory, the Bronco Raptor has 37-inch tires, tons of ground clearance, just gobs of suspension travel, and a really great factory suspension. A punchy motor that's got a lot of power. It sounds awesome, and it looks amazing. But the mileage is so-so. It's got an itty-bitty teeny tiny gas tank, so it has terrible range.
What am I supposed to say? Will it last 100,000 miles? I don't know. This is the vibe.
That's a nice vibe. You look great. So almost 2 years ago, I ordered a Bronco and I ordered a Bronco Raptor from a buddy of mine at, Brad Howell Ford. His name's Andy. Thanks, Andy. Anyway, I kind of forgot about it. At the time, to me, the price point was more than fair for what you were getting, and I ordered it and I kind of forgot about it. And then like a few months back, Andy was like, hey, you may be getting a Ford Bronco Raptor soon. I guess there weren't any notifications about the fact that it was being built or whatever. And then he calls me like the week before Christmas. He's like, hey, guess what came in? And I was like, oh, wow. And the reason why I say I accidentally bought it is because I didn't have to take delivery of it, but I was price protected at the MSRP from like 2 years ago. And if you've been following it, the new MSRP and the price that I got it at, there was a really good gap. So I figured, why not? I felt like it was a pretty low risk deal. Let's do an overview on the specs. Okay, so there are a ton of similarities between the Bronco Raptor and the Bronco. I mean, it's basically the same thing, except for they swapped out a whole bunch of stuff. What they did is they went and they said, we want to run, to me, in my head, I don't know if this is what they really did, but they said, I want to run 37-inch tires. What do I need to do in order to make this work? Because you can put 37-inch tires on anything, right? You can put 37-inch tires on a 4Runner. Zach did it on his 4Runner, but he had to do a lot of modifications to make that work. But I digress. But imagine if you are Ford and you go, I want to run a 37-inch tire on the Bronco. Well, we need clearance, right? So let's give it larger fenders, because when they stuff the suspension, we want it to have the ability to fully articulate without rubbing. We need beefier axles. They went up to a Dana 50 in the rear, which is up from a Dana 44, and they went up to Dana 44 axles up in the front, because 2 axles, is it called 1 axle if there's 2 on either side if it's an IFS? And they went up from Dana M190s. They did a much beefier suspension system, which is called the Haas 4.0, HOSS, and it comes with Fox 3.1-inch diameter tubes, shock bodies, and integrated reservoirs up front and remote reservoirs in the rear. This gives you a lot of extra fluid to help with suspension fade, and it keeps the ride feeling really good for a longer period of time. They increase the ground clearance, of course, because they need to clear the 37s, and they really increase the suspension travel. The suspension travel, I believe on the front and the back, at least on the back, but I think it's on the front and the back, they increased it 4 inches. It's 4 inches more suspension travel than the Badlands. And then they go, well, gee, I think we need to have more power. So the power plant in the Ford Bronco Raptor is totally different than the power plant in the regular Broncos. The regular Broncos, I think, have 2 different options. You've got a 4-cylinder and a 6-cylinder, both turbocharged. And in this one, they've got a much larger 3-liter V6, pushing out 418 horsepower. And you can feel it, it's got spunk. And we can't forget about the upper and lower control arms. On the Ford Bronco Raptor, they are significantly beefier than the regular Bronco. So if you thought the regular Bronco looked good, this thing, to me, looks like awesome. If you're just looking at the pictures or even on this video, to me it almost looks like, for me when I was looking at the pictures and on the video, the fender flares looked like awkwardly, audaciously large. it just looked like they look like wings. But in person, you really just can't help but stare in awe and amazement at just how awesome this thing looks. The tire size and the fenders, everything's very proportional, and it just looks really good. Additionally, Ford nailed the lighting design. The lighting, the ambient lighting and the accent lighting, the 3 lights that they've got in the front, just the way they executed the lighting on this thing, they really did a good job. It looks really awesome at night. So inside the Bronco Raptor, it's really comfortable. I'll tell you, one of the regrets that I have is that I didn't order the leather seating. When I'd made the order, I was thinking in my head that the vinyl seating would be better from a utility perspective. I was thinking, well, if I have the top off and it rains, or if I'm out in the middle of the desert, or, you know how it is when you're on trips, everything in the inside of your vehicle, no matter how hard you try, it just gets dirty. The stupid thing is that all of my other vehicles, it's never mattered, right? But I was thinking, well, hey, the vinyl seating I think was a selling point, so I got that. Had I got the leather seating, and I'm telling you right now, if you have the option to order one of these, get the leather seating, because it comes with the power adjustable seats, and you have, I think it's 11-way, or I don't know, it's more adjustable than this seat is. That was a regret that I have. Get the leather seats. But otherwise, this thing is super comfortable. Feels really good. There's plenty of space in here. There's a lot more room than the Jeep. We have a Gladiator, so I can speak into the drivability of a Jeep a little bit. There's a lot of things to love about a Jeep. The thing that I don't personally like about, and I haven't ever driven like a Wrangler, but I'm imagining the Rubicon or the Wrangler's the same in this regard. The footwell space is so small that I like, driving around town's no problem, but I took it one time up to the office for 6 hours. It was just really uncomfortable. I had nowhere to put my feet, you know what I mean? That is improved in the Bronco. It's not as, I don't have as much space as I have in the big truck, but it is better in the Bronco than it is in the Jeep. So I like that. I like and hate this. Okay, so I guess I like having the options. So it's nice to have the options, but there are so many menu options here. It's at first it was overwhelming. I just had to spend a minute just to like poke around and see what was going on. But as I'm hitting this up arrow button right here and I'm going through the menus, right? So you've got pitch and roll, you've got Raptor status. I'm not really sure what Raptor status is, the point of that. I mean, I can put it in, Raptor mode, which you can save different modes. And so I can set this, all the parameters up the way I want to, whether I'm, my exhaust setting and my damper setting and my steering wheel setting, and then, different modes here. I can set all that stuff up and save it as a Raptor mode. So my Raptor mode, you can enable your Raptor mode by pushing this button twice. And when you do that, it sets it up. And so my Raptor mode puts it in sport mode, which you can see which mode it's in right here, indicated by the S. And then you can see I've got the steering wheel in sport mode, and I've got the dampers in sport mode, and I've got the exhaust system in Baja mode, because that's the loudest and most fun. So that tells you what your Raptor status is. It's probably a little gimmicky, but it's fun, whatever. In all of these different things, you can customize this by pressing OK here to add or remove screens. You have, I think, 8 or 9 screens you can have in there, and I've got Performance View, Trip 1. I don't have Trip 2 in there, and you've got all these other options, and then you can see I can't add anything else because I'm maxed out. Yeah, 7 screens, right? So you've got driver assistance here, this Performance View, which I actually like. This is the one I'm typically on. Unless I'm highway traveling, I'll pick this one right here. So I can see where I'm at in my lane, I guess, and see how far the guy is in front of me. I don't know. I don't really know. A lot of this stuff is just kind of creature comfort stuff. It does have like keep you in your lane kind of technology. You can push that button and that'll turn green down there. I don't know if you saw that. Oh, it's gone now. Where'd it go? There it is. Oh, it's on right now. It's probably not green because I'm not driving. It does kind of lane correct you. If you hit your lane marker, it'll bump you back in, but then it gets mad at you and tells you to put your hands back on the steering wheel. It does okay. It's nothing like the new Toyotas, but whatever. You got all the gauges up there. The other thing that's kind of cool, let me go into my gauges. There's just so much. In fact, they have so many gauge options. It's almost like holy moly. So, okay, so you got air charge temperature, air fuel ratio, battery voltage, cylinder head temperature, engine oil temperature, inlet air temperature. I mean, just so vacuum boost, so much stuff. Transmission temperature and oil pressure is pretty relevant. You know, some of these things I just don't know why you'd ever need to know, but it's there if you want it, I guess, if you, if that's interesting to you for one reason or another. And then you've got what's called GOAT modes. So when you flip this around, these are sort of your automatic modes, right? So the different modes you have, right now it's in sport mode, so you flip it once, it tells you which mode you're in. You can click it again, it puts you in normal mode. If I come over here, I can go in trailer, you know, tow haul mode. Basically, what this is going to do, this is the thing that I think is really cool about this. It actually changes the responsive. So when you put it in sport mode, for instance, it actually changes the responsiveness of the pedal. So you don't have to add like a pedal commander or anything like that. It also changes the shift points of the transmission. And one of the things it does that's actually kind of annoying is that it downshifts. I mean, I understand the utility and function behind it, but it's just kind of annoying because everybody's looking at you when the exhaust is going off because you're downshifting. But whatever, so it downshifts and it really feels, it you know, tightens up the steering, feels sporty, right? So it's pretty cool. Tow haul mode's probably going to have a similar response in the transmission in terms of how the tow haul works. You put in slippery mode, and it's going to change your transfer case to 4 auto. 4 auto is indicated over there, 4A. I don't know for sure, correct me in comments if I'm wrong, but I believe it's like basically all-wheel drive, right? So when I put it in 4 auto, and I usually won't put it in slippery mode, I'll usually just come down here and put it in 4 auto if I'm driving in the rain, for instance. I actually treat it like a regular 4-wheel drive system. I won't put it in 4 auto or change the transfer case unless I'm going under like 50 miles an hour, because I don't really know what's happening mechanically, and I just don't want to push it. But I probably won't put it in slippery mode. I'll put it in 4 auto and driving in the rain, but that's kind of what that's for. 4 auto is going to be like, think of it like all-wheel drive. It feels like an all-wheel drive vehicle, but it doesn't do the chirp like it would be in 4 high when you're going around a tight corner, if that makes sense. So I'm going to come back over here and put it back in normal mode. You have off-road mode, which is going to change your transfer case to 4 high auto, and it's going to lock the rear differential. You see that? That's pretty cool. And then you can also, if you come down here into performance mode, it's going to show you where the power is going to be going. So you've got your rear differential locked as indicated right there, and then it's got 4H right there. And then if I'm driving, it's going to actually show power going throughout the entire drivetrain system. And then if I bump it over one more to Baja mode, it's going to do 4H as well. And it put the steering damper settings and exhaust settings all to Baja. The other thing Baja mode did is it activated the screen. This is one of my favorite parts about Baja, is that if you do want to be in 4 high, but you want to have the camera on the front, you can put it in Baja mode and it'll give you the camera on the front. You can get the camera on the front by pushing this button, but it pretty much turns off right away, you know, once you start moving. It's nice for parking spots, but it doesn't hold for very long. And then last but not least is you have rock crawl mode. So rock crawl mode is going to put it in 4 low, and so for 4 low it says shift N, so I'll put it in neutral and let it shift to 4 low. And then it's going to disconnect the sway bar. It's going to turn off advanced track. It's going to leave the rear differential locked, and you can see that's indicated up here. If you want to lock the front diff, you can lock the front diff as well, and then you're ready to go. From here, you can also disengage this, and you can also disengage the rear locker as well if you want to. Rock crawl mode also leaves the front camera activated, so that's pretty cool. If you don't want to do any of these modes, oh, I just noticed this. Can you see all of the indications here? You've got the yellow on the sway bar disconnect up front, and then you got the yellow rear locking diff. Let's hit the front locker, and now you got a front locking indicator right there as well. And then you also have it indicated over here. So we'll disconnect that. If you just want to use these right here, you can go into 4 low right here or 4 high. Here's trailer, I'm sorry, this is, what is this? 1 pedal drive, active use, set button for trail control. Oh, this is probably, oh, you know what this does? It's braking, it's holding the brake right now. So it's like left foot braking. That is actually amazing. So if you just need to inch forward, or inch back. There's Baron. Or just need to inch back. Look at that. That's really cool. I didn't know about that. Super neat. All right. Whoop. So we'll turn that off. All right, great, off. So that's kind of like a walkthrough of those features. They call these buttons up here the hero buttons. So you've got sway bar disconnect here, front locking differential, rear locking differential, trail turn assist, I think is what they call that. So trail turn assist is if you, the Land Cruisers were well known for that. I think I've got that in my GX as well. You can turn that on in 4-low only. And then when you turn one way or another, it's going to brake the inside rear tire. And that's going to basically allow you to turn sharper. If you're on a rock, it's probably going to put a lot more strain on the system or hard surfaces. If you're in dirt, it's just going to skid in the dirt, and then you can disconnect. I'm sorry, turn off your traction control, and then you've got your hazard lights up there. So that's rock crawling mode. I haven't wheeled this thing, so I don't have any experience with it, but I've heard that it's a pretty decent rock crawler. Let's go for a drive. First thing I always do is I press the Raptor button twice and get into my saved Raptor mode settings. I'm in steering sport mode. Well, I'm in sport mode, and I've got steering damper in sport settings, and then I've got the exhaust in Baja mode. As far as my seating position goes, I'm sitting the way I like to sit, but it's also got lumbar support, which if I don't have lumbar support after just a little while, my lower back gets upset with me. One of the other things this has, it has paddle shifters, so I can shift it all the way down and put it into manual mode, and I can use the paddle shifters to row through the gears, which is kind of fun. You know, I mean, it's not really rowing through the gears, but so in sport mode, when you have the steering wheel, when you have the steering in sport mode, the steering is tighter. There are a few different settings for the steering, including normal mode, comfort mode, which makes it like a lot softer, and then you've got sport mode, which like makes it tighter. It's actually the one I prefer. Also, one of my favorite things about the Raptor mode is that you can add the auto start stop feature to it. So if you have that disabled in your Raptor mode, then it's disabled. It's nice. My fastest 0 to 60 time that I clocked on just this little iPhone app, who knows how accurate it is, was 5.95 seconds. So sub 6 seconds. I thought that was pretty cool. TFL Truck did a 0 to 60 test, and the best they could do was 7 seconds. So either their reading is not accurate, or their driving is terrible, or my reading is not accurate. So I don't really know, but it didn't feel as sluggish as 7 seconds, because I can do 7 seconds in the GX, and this feels faster. Here we go. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's no Porsche, but it's a lot of fun. I did read that they are piping some of the exhaust noise in through the speaker system. I don't know if that's true or not. It wouldn't surprise me. I know the technology, they're doing a lot of stuff like that these days. I don't know that I really care. For me, it's nice to hear it. I don't know that you really needed to do it. If they open up the exhaust, you know, with the setting, the manifolds, which I know they do, but whatever, you know. The more sound you can get inside the cabin, the funner it is. I know it's not a word. Okay, I'm gonna put it in manual mode and knock it down to 6 and punch it. It's a lot of fun, I'll tell you that. Can you hear it downshifting as I brake? You'll hear it in a sec. So it's cool and it's kind of fun, but it's like when you're pulling up to a stoplight and everybody around you is like, all right, cool guy, we know you got a cool car, you don't have to show off. That's what it feels like to me anyway. Maybe I'm just insecure, but there's a 5th gear pull a little bit. It's got a ton of punch in just about every gear, and I will tell you, on the highway, it's a blast, right? It's really nice to be like going 70 miles an hour on a highway and needing to punch it and get around somebody, and the responsiveness is like immediate. All right, here we go. 2nd gear, 3rd, 4th, and we got to the speed limit. In terms of drivability, it feels good, it handles good. One of my favorite things about newer cars, the technology that's mostly available in all of them, and I always option it in my newer vehicles, is adaptive cruise control. I mean, I don't even know how we survived without it. Driving on the highway with adaptive cruise control versus not having it, it's like a dream come true. I do a fair bit of highway travel between Orlando and Panama City Beach, where my office is, and that's kind of like one of the justifications I had for this vehicle. We just paid off a few vehicles, so I was like, well, I can justify keeping this thing for a little while until I need to buy some other vehicles and get more auto loans, you know? And so I figure, you know, I'll probably put some business badging on this and use it as my kind of office vehicle when I drive to the office. Oh, something else this has that I didn't think about, and I don't have it in my big truck, is blind spot monitoring. I know that that's like a super common thing, but I really like that it has that. All right, driving up through the other part of my property, we're gonna put it in neutral, and then I'm gonna switch the mode to Baja mode. Now we got our camera there, put it back in drive. All right. Never noticed the steering had a Baja mode. I don't know what Baja mode does for the steering, but anyway, we'll come up and around here. You can see where I did the burnouts earlier, not the burnouts, but the donuts. And let's put it in rock crawling mode. Let's go put a tire up right here. Let's lock the front diff. Yeah, I know. I was just walking right up this. No gas at all, plenty of torque. Oh man, it's just going. It's about as high as I want to go. Look at the flex on the back. Ugh. I mean, just look at all this flex. It's like, to give you a little bit of perspective, it's this much flex back here. I think it's 22 inches of travel. I can't remember. And something cool to think about, I showed this earlier, but do you see how much, I mean, there's a lot of slack on the other side, and they have this, well, there's slack on both sides, and it's to, I think it's the brake line, it's to a lot for articulation, right? That's something you have to think about when you're increasing your travel and your suspension systems. And of course, obviously, that's been allotted for here. As we walk around the other side, you can see just how stuffed this is. And one of the things we talked about earlier was the ability for these fenders to clear it once it's stuffed. I don't know if it could be stuffed any more than this, maybe, but it's not touching. You know, you got still plenty of clearance in here, more than a hand, you know, no rubbing. All right, let's bring this beast back down. Got it in reverse. I'll put it in neutral and let it roll off. One thing I did want to mention is it actually does have functional rock sliders. These steps are metal steps. I'd say they are very durable, and I plan on leaving them on until something happens. I think that's what a lot of people do, because it really doesn't matter if they get bent up. These would not function as a rock slider. They will not take the weight of the vehicle. They will definitely bend. But I think if you're not gonna planning on pivoting on them, I think that for 90% of the use case, they'd be fine. And if you bend them up, you can just pull them off. Use your rock sliders here. They also have other bolt-on rock sliders that you can get that provide a step that are available out there anyway. And this is what I look like inside here. I'm like right at 6'1", and I've got the seat all the way back. It's probably a little further back than I would do for driving. And that's about where I would be right here. So it's pretty comfortable. I would say if you're a lot taller than me, I guess it would depend on if that height is in your torso and your legs on how comfortable you'll be. But I'm 6'1", this is how I fit. This is me in the back seat. I would say it's a little tight. the seating position is a little more upright than I would rather be. I don't believe that's adjustable, but I've got, I wouldn't say plenty of headroom, maybe an inch and a half. And I don't know, it's fine. I wouldn't want to be back here in a long road trip, but you know, whatever. You got these MOLLE panels in the back of the seats, which is kind of cool. I'm going to definitely put some Blue Ridge Overland gear up there, and you got these elastic things that are probably just going to get stretched out over time with my kids, but you know, whatevsies, you know. You do have two charger ports right here. You've got USB and USB-C, and then an AC plug adapter, and then you've got your window controls here in the middle as well. And then you can remove the roof. It's kind of cool. So you push this down, and these seats collapse down like that. So they lay, I don't know, I wouldn't call that flat, but flat-ish. As for the back, it's kind of like a Jeep. Pull that handle, open her up, and then the window goes up. It's nice and open. I don't know, I like it. I don't have the dimensions, but it feels close to the size that we had in the back of the 4Runner. Not as big, but close. You've got a little storage compartment over here on this side. Then under here, you've got a little bit of storage too. There is a battery solution that somebody has come up with, I think American Adventure Labs, for, you know, a battery system that you can put down in here in this bin. You've got these tie down points right here on both sides, and you might even have, yeah, you've got them in all four corners. And you've got a 12-volt plug right here. I'll tell you one of the things that I'm looking at. So I think I'm going to do a mild Overland build with this. We'll get into that in a second, but I'm probably going to do a goose gear rear deck and just keep it simple. Have a fridge, and then probably do some, I don't even know if I'm going to do a drawer slide or storage or anything on the other side. I'll probably just use my front runner boxes to keep it light and simple, and then run the fridge off of Goal Zero, and then tend the Goal Zero off the 12-volt plug that I have over here. That's kind of what I'm thinking. They do make a bunch of different accessories here that you can plug in here. It even says right here, accessory ready. I'm not really sure, maybe you just screw stuff into those holes, but I want to put a table platform here. American Adventure Lab has made a single compressor mount to go back in here. I may do something like that. I have a dual compressor in a box. I know that's one more thing to have to carry, and single compressors are just really slow, but you know, whatever. I don't know what the tow rating is. You can look that up, but you've got all your sensors back here. You've got your hitch, and you've got your tow connections right there. The plan is for this in the immediate future to keep this like a very light Overland build. I've got a rack from Trail Racks. I have it in. I'm going to be putting it on in the next, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 weeks. And I can't wait to put that thing on. I'm hoping it's going to be a pretty simple install. But for me, I guess one of the things that I see in a build like this is the first thing you got to do is you got to put a rack on it. You don't want to store everything inside. I'm going to put my the Trail Racks roof rack on top, and I'm going to put my iCamper on top. So I'll have my tent and all that stuff ready to go. Got a small Dometic fridge I'll put in the back, and I'll run one of my smaller Goal Zeros in the back as well. And like I said, tend that off the 12-volt. And then I'll use front runner boxes for the rest of the stuff. The idea here will be for this to be kind of like a light, nimble weekender, if you know what I mean. Not sure what I'm going to do about my morning pooping routine, but I'll have to figure that out. The question that I think we all have, especially if you've been following me for a long time, is, hey, on paper, this thing looks freaking awesome, right? Looks bad to the bone, but will it last? I don't want to get too much into speculation and or hearsay, but I will tell you, in the short time that I've had it, less than 2,500 miles, I have basically come across several other people that have had myriad issues with these things. So it kind of brings to mind my 2016 4Runner. If you've been around for a long time, you know it. I had literally 0 problems with that thing in the 4 years that I owned it, the 100,000 miles that I put on it. I mean, it never skipped a beat. It was great. And everybody expects that out of a Toyota, right? Even though not all Toyotas perform that way, the 4Runners are very, very, very well known, and Land Cruisers are very well known for being that way. So the question is, you know, am I going to start bumping into issues at 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 miles down the road? And the real question is whether or not this thing will be still running well at 100,000 miles. This 10-speed transmission feels great. The pep feels great. The turbocharged motor, the performance, everything about it. It is balls to the wall fun, right? It's an amazing, fun vehicle. But is it still going to be working in, you know, this fashion when it's got 100,000 miles? And these are questions that I have that I will not be able to answer until I put 100,000 miles on it, and I don't think I'm going to, by the way. The powertrain, they plucked this motor out of one of their other vehicles, right? Or maybe they're using this in a few other vehicles. By the way, if you know what other vehicles are running this motor and have any information, knowledge, experience, or whatever on long-term reliability and dependability on this motor or drivetrain, please link to comments below, because I would actually love to know more information about that. I think everybody else would too, and maybe I can do a follow-up video on that in the future if it's warranted. My question is, the Toyota platform, that motor that they put in the 4Runner and the transmission and the way it's all sealed, I mean, they really built that thing to handle I don't want to be dramatic, but extreme conditions, right? It's intended to be used in a fashion that we use these things in. So the question I have is, they plucked this motor out of some other vehicles. Did they reinforce anything to help support its strength and durability in the use case scenario that we as overlanders or off-roaders would use this vehicle in, right? Because if they had this motor in a Ford Explorer ST, nobody's taking that thing off-road. So they beef up the componentry. Did they beef up the connections? Did they beef up the wiring? I mean, I don't know what needs to be beefed up, but are things sealed properly, knowing that people are going to drive this thing through a creek? Or dare I say a river? These are all questions that I have in terms of long-term reliability. I don't know if any of those things were handled. So the question I have is, will this thing last? And I guess only time will tell. But it sure does look awesome, doesn't it? Drives good, looks good. It's super accessory ready. You can bolt on stuff all over the place. The bumper's modular. It's made in a way you can bolt stuff on. There is a ton of aftermarket support for it. Just about anything you could think of that you would want, you can get. And a lot of the Bronco stuff is cross-compatible with the Bronco Raptor stuff, but not everything. And in terms of giving the people what they want, Ford, you gave the people what they want. So I hope you enjoyed this video of the new Bronco Raptor that we've got. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this long term yet or not. I really like it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to getting the modifications done that I've got planned for it and taking it on a short trip. If you have any questions about this, or if you have any information or knowledge or anything about this vehicle or this vehicle's platform, I love the comments. Good, bad, or indifferent. I've learned more from the comments over the years than just about anything else. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you guys in the next video.